Hi there, welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham, and this is not a drill. Tottenham Hotspur have kept a clean sheet. I repeat, this is not a drill. It happened. God knows how, but it happened. 4-0 over Leeds, Bielsa then sacked. I promised on Friday I'm not going to go back onto we're in the top four race again, and I'm not going to, but it was a healthy win, and a good win helped by some bizarre Leeds defending and tactics, which we'll get into. Joined by Justin again. How are you doing, Justin?
Yeah, not too bad, Chris. Thank you very much for having me on.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully, Tommy will be on a bit later. So hopefully he'll come on in the next 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. Blue Podcast on the chat. Thanks for the support and the comments, everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching. Thank you so much. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and then hit that notification bell. That will give you an alert when we're going live. All helps the channel. 192 subscribers at the moment. Really want to get those extra 8 and get on to 200. Really appreciate all the support. Let's get into it. We'll start with this. Kane and Son, record breakers. It's been coming for a little while, but finally, in terms of goals and assists to each other, they're now ahead of anyone else in the Premier League. Drogba and Lampard, a few others I can't remember offhand, although Sheringham and Anderton were in there as well. But Kane and Son, record breakers. We'll talk about their individual performances in the Leeds game in a bit. But thoughts on their record-breaking on their record that they've broken.
Well, to be fair, it is just a phenomenal achievement. I think the only sad part that you would put with it is the fact that they don't have the trophies to go with it, which they should do. You know, they very much between them have been the, two of the linchpins of what Tottenham have been and what Tottenham have been possibly able to achieve, in terms of the multiple top four finishes, getting to finals, although it was a shame that we didn't have the VAR that they had at Goodison Park for our Champions League final.
I can't believe that.
That was shocking beyond belief.
Yeah.
So, but what they've done between them, has I just think it's something that Tottenham. It's wonderful that Tottenham have had the opportunity to watch these two players over the years, and I know that we've seen both of them go through dry spells, but you just look at, that goal at the end, the one that broke the record, it just summed everything up. And it also summed up what we've spoken about when Kane drops deep. When is that person bombing forward, is giving him that ball that he can play out. And it was inch perfect. It really, really was. And it showed Doherty how to do it when he had the similar sort of chance. So, they've been doing it for year on year for us. And as I say, you now, though, see that hopefully with having a world-class manager there as well in Conte, with players that mean that we're not so reliant. I think that's the only thing I find saddening isn't just the fact of the lack of trophies, but when we've had partnerships like that, when we had I think it was Sheringham and Armstrong, going back, and you had Keane and Berbatov, we've had some wonderful strikers over the years and partnerships and things like that have been sensational, and yet we've got one trophy to show for it, and they deserve better from my aspect. So, well done to both of them. Fantastic talent, and wonderful that they are both still in Spurs shirts. We just have to hope now that the next 10 or 20 contributions that they give will be ones that will actually lead to success on the pitch, because it shouldn't just be individual honours. I can't think of the amount of individual honours that our players have got, but yet haven't won anything in terms of from a team perspective, which seems absolutely crazy. But no, well done to them both. Two fantastic players, and hopefully now with having Conte, with this backing that hopefully will be coming, and what we're seeing, I know we'll come on to it, but what we're seeing at Kulusevski,
very impressive. His goal was superb. We'll get onto that a bit later.
Stunning it was. Yeah, so I think from that aspect, if we can have more people chip in, it's one of the things that has always been a difficulty is it's been rare that we've had three or four players getting at least 10 to 15 goals. I think, we had it in the early part of Pochettino with Kane, Son and Ali. And I think Chadley, I think he able to do that as well. But we haven't, very rarely do we have that many players chipping in with like 10, 15 goals a season. And that's what needs to change. And I think what we'll come on to in the game is what we saw, which looks like potentially more contribution, which will make Tottenham more of a threat going forward.
Yeah, definitely helped with who we were playing. Again, the same three were up front against Burnley, and they had their tactics spot on. I mean, we were definitely helped by Leeds' tactics, and then Bielsa's been sacked afterwards. The tactics were mind-boggling, really, especially on Match of the Day when he does his interview and his interpreter says, we knew how Tottenham would play. I couldn't believe that at all. And I know there were a few Leeds players who were following the likes of Kane and Kulusevski around, but Son, for me, I've never seen the guy play so deep. And, it was just schoolboy stuff. I mean, the Doherty chance that then Son had a chance for and it was blocked by the defender. All he does is move inside. Ayling, I think it was, who's just following him around like a stalker, creates so much space, and it's an easy pass for Kane, and Doherty should have done better, and then Son should have done better afterwards. But I mean, Son was playing so deep, Ayling's following him, leaving so much space. And then Kane coming deep, no one really tracking him back. You know what Kane's going to do. I mean, you've got to put your chances away.
Yeah,
so, but I mean, the Leeds tactics and then Bielsa being sacked. I mean, he's been brilliant for the league. He's been brilliant for the league, attacking play and lead. He's got Leeds back into the division when countless of managers haven't been able to. So he does deserve a lot of credit for that. But I mean, the tactics were just absolutely crazy. How you doing, Tommy?
All good, mate. All good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think of the tactics, Justin? Specifically, Ayling following Son all around the pitch and then Son just drifting out of the way so that there's so much space, time and time again.
I think I was on your show Friday and I was talking about it and I said to you after doing All Things Tottenham, I said I thought we would get a hatful of goals because anyone who had watched the Burnley game would have seen how to play Tottenham. Sitting deep, breaking up the play, making it awkward, not letting them get behind, making it really sort of almost like a dirty game. Burnley made it very sort of dirty. They didn't really give Tottenham any sort of opportunities or anything like that. So it just came down to, just a pure aggression, I think, on the pitch, which is where Burnley came out because they wanted it more. I don't think they needed more. They wanted it more than we did. And that's where I think it came to. With Leeds, I knew we would win. I knew we would win because you would never, no one, and I'm telling you this now, possibly bar City, bar the top four, or maybe top six, no one else would play that way against Tottenham. They just wouldn't, okay? And the reason that Bielsa plays that way is because he believes in attacking philosophy. We've seen the Pochettino, raved about him. We've seen Guardiola rave about him. We've seen the good things of it. The problem is, and it's quite interesting because you look at Guardiola and you look at Pochettino, one of the things you would say you could potentially be critical of them is not having a plan B. What they've been very lucky with is that when they go with plan A, they've got great players to do it. But under Pochettino, there was a lot of times Tottenham would struggle to break teams down. They would sit deep. They would sort of say, right, come on then, break us down. And Bielsa is where I think they got that from, which isn't a bad thing because, as I say, we've seen with Leeds, we've seen some wonderful games. We've seen football, and it's nice to see Leeds back in the Premier League. But the definition, I think I said before, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And the fact was, it didn't take a rocket scientist to work out how to beat Leeds. It was a case of just wait for them to come forward in numbers, which they did. You know, Kane could potentially, let Kane come deeper. The others go forward, whip the ball forward, you're going to score. And that is what we saw. The ball that Winks passed out to Sessegnon just carved them straight open. The ball from Kane over the top.
It wasn't even difficult. It wasn't a difficult pass that from Winks, was it? I mean, it's just a schoolboy could play that pass. Absolutely,
and
crazy.
To be fair, there was just, I mean, I think in the last 5 games they've conceded 20 goals. You knew you were going to score. I think the only thing which, I mean, okay, Lloris did try and help them, but to be fair, the only thing that they didn't score was score, which was the most surprising part. But it's sad that he had to go, but the problem is that you can't try and play that type of football. No disrespect with that type of players. They haven't got the quality. If he was at Tottenham, he could have got away with it perhaps at Tottenham. If he was at City, he could get away with it with City. That's why we've seen them do that. PSG do it as well. But at Leeds, when you are sitting there and you've got Dan James up top, I like Dan James. I think he's a really good player. And if Leeds do go down, I think Tottenham should definitely go and snap him up. I wanted him when he went to Leeds, but he's not a striker, so you can't play that way. You've got to almost sometimes think a point isn't a bad option, and that wasn't in the philosophy. It was a case of 3 points or nothing. So Tottenham, to their credit, they didn't get, they didn't sort of collapse. They didn't crumple. They sort of let Leeds do what we knew they were going to do, and then just picked them off. And sure enough, it could have been 6 or 7 by that point. So it's sad to see him go, but a change did need to be made. But from what I did read, I can't believe that that's now the 3rd manager we've got sacked.
Because not including our own ones, you mean?
Not including, because the Watford manager got sacked. Steve Bruce got sacked, and now Bielsa's got sacked. So, we've got Everton next, and it's a good job that Benitez still isn't there, because he probably wouldn't last much longer.
No, I think 5 or 6 managers will have Watford on their CV.
Oh,
sacking them, because they go through 5 or 6 managers a season, don't they?
Look at it.
A couple of comments here before we get your thoughts on the game, Tommy. Simply Ace, how you doing, buddy? A perfect game for Tottenham, playing a team that gives you all the space in the world. Dr. Leeds for us. Mark Cousins, how you doing, Mark? Leeds were the worst team we've played. Simply Ace goes on to say, this season Leeds are not scoring enough goals. It doesn't help when Patrick Bamford's been injured for a long time, and their defence is shocking. Conceded 60 Premier League goals already, and it really doesn't help if Calvin Phillips isn't there in that midfield to help mop stuff up. And Audio Artisan, evening chaps, how you doing? Thanks so much for watching. Mate. Thanks so much for everyone in the chats and watching. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. Need 8 more subscriptions or subscribers, to get to the 200. But Tommy, before we get on to Leeds tactics, just a quick word. We've already discussed this. Kane and Son, record breakers, finally. I mean, it was always going to come when they were 1 or 2 off the record. Now, finally, and what a goal to cement that record. Just a word on those 2.
Yeah, crazy. I just done a stream and I was sort of like, I dissected the whole game, everything that happened. And that Kane pass to Sonny it pretty much summed that relationship up. What I couldn't believe was I done a stream last night and I was like, how many goals did they score last season? Because last season itself was incredible. To be in a team as pragmatic as Joe says and to score the goals they did, and for Kane to get top assist maker and top goal scorer was incredible. And a lot of that was down to Son as well. So that's where that's really where it came together. 17 combinations last season, and God knows how many this season. It really has. The last year and a half or so, they really have come together. And as you say, it was a matter of time. It could be a threesome now, though. Could be a threesome.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. That goal was superb. But I mean, we were helped by some Leeds' tactics and defending, which is just non-league at best. I mean, Son, the appreciation of space and intelligence of him. I mean, he created a lot of space just by buggering off out of the way, and Ayling was just following him around like a kid, looking after, chasing his hero.
They don't press. Leeds don't press.
Yeah,
they man mark. The only thing they man mark. As soon as the man's got the ball, they'll head towards the man and they'll leave everybody else. So it's a man marking system. You need a lot of energy to do it. The team needs a lot of fitness, and Bielsa did integrate that into Leeds. A hell of a lot of fitness when they were in the Championship. The 2 years they were there. They had, Ayling, you mentioned Ayling, was an average Championship player. Stuart Dallas, Championship player, turned him into Premier League stars. Leeds finished 9th last season. Very good first season.
Calvin Phillips as well.
In the Premier League. Phillips, yeah. Phillips was young, so he would have eventually developed, you could imagine. But Ayling was 25, 26. Dallas was 27, 28 when he turned them round. So it's incredible. But Calvin Phillips was up and coming. He was good in the Championship. They missed him yesterday, didn't they? But look, I don't want to keep using that as an excuse. Leeds were missing. Okay, they're missing their striker Bamford. They were missing the midfielder Phillips, and they were missing their captain Liam Cooper. But it's their own fault. They don't sign depth. They don't go with depth. Bielsa likes keeping 12 or 13 players that he can rely on, and he doesn't really care about the 11 players that don't. And when they come in, they're awful. They're not very good, and that's what we saw with the defence yesterday. They're not on the same wavelength whatsoever.
To be fair, though, if you remember, that's what Pochettino was like. He liked a very thin squad, and that sort of was okay for the first part of a season. But as we saw towards the end, we would always start tailing off, and we were never able to compete in bigger, more and more competitions.
And he was his mentor, wasn't he? And Bielsa was Pochettino's mentor, so it made a lot of sense. But but he never really wanted the signings, Pochettino, as well. You could argue because this is one of the things, and I am not a Levy supporter at all. But when we say Levy didn't support Pochettino, he didn't really want to be supported in a lot of ways. As we just said, he liked that small squad to work with. But it does come against you, as you say, at the end of seasons. It can work against you, especially. Those fitness levels, especially when you're playing in Europe as well, can come back to haunt you. But Leeds done it in a 46-game season in the Championship. It doesn't get harder than that. So they can do it week in, week out. But they lose one or two. They lose one or two players. They lose one or two players. They're in big trouble. As you said, Daniel James up top's not good enough in front of Bamford. No chance against us in the first game. Let's remember we sneaked past at home against Leeds. We sneaked past 2-1.
One of the things that we did find, and I said it was reminiscent when we had Pochettino, is, as you just said, when you start to lose 2 or 3 players, you're then in a situation where you are down to having to go back to the reserves, and you played 5 or 10 games, haven't even come off the bench. If you remember with Pochettino, it was, which was still seeing Kane. Conte joked about it, but with Kane with one leg. Will still play, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, but this is
part of the 25. You need minutes in your legs as a player at a Premier League level. If you don't have those minutes in your legs, and it's 6 months into the season, you've got 15 games left, there's going to be problems because this is the best league in the world. This is the best level in the world.
Don't get me wrong.
Look at the 3 games. Look at the 3 games they've had. If they're going to come undone, concede 4 against Man United, 6 against Liverpool, and us, we've got a great attack. Let's face it. We have got a great attack. So 14 goals in 3 games. They're in trouble. They're in big trouble. They've had injuries, but I don't feel sorry for him for that reason alone. No. He wants to work with a small squad, so live by the sword, die by the sword.
I think to be fair, the league table doesn't lie, and they were in a situation where they would have gone down because that football was just not. It was lovely to watch. It really was. As a neutral, it was beautiful football to watch. You knew you could have watched a fantastic game, whoever it was that Leeds were playing. But you knew full well that if you were the team facing Leeds, as I thought when we faced them, we're going to score. Because if we can't score against Leeds, we can't score against nobody.
Yeah. I thought.
Sorry, Chris.
So I was just going to say, Leeds had chances and they could have easily got a couple of goals on another day. I just think if they had got a couple of goals, we'd have just turned it up and scored another couple ourselves because it was so wide open. And Bielsa on Match of the Day, Tommy, said, his interpreter said, we knew how Tottenham would play.
His interpreter said,
If you know how Tottenham are going to play, which is Kane coming deep and passing through balls into space, don't allow the bloody space. It's just, I mean, I feel sorry for him a little bit, but it's his own fault, really.
It's a man marking system. They can't change. They can't change it in a
He's
week.
just not adapted to at all. Gone toe to toe with us, and yeah, they could have scored a few goals, but I think, I couldn't believe how wide open it was. Really, it was just
stubbornness. But they're not going to be able to change that if you're doing it for 3.5 years. If you can see 10 goals against Liverpool, Man United, you're not going to be able to go right. Let's get rid of man marking. Let's go back.
Like 20
zonal.
goals in 4 games.
Open play. Let's go zonal. It's not gonna. It's not gonna work. So he's stuck with his stubbornness. He's stuck with his stubbornness.
20 goals in 4 games or 5 games. I mean, how many goals
madness.
do you have to concede to think something?
But we should have conceded goals. We were very
we'll
fortunate
come on to
not
that
to
in a
concede.
bit. But a couple of comments. Mark Cousins, Kane's pass for Son was like Hoddle. Matthew McAllister, how you doing, buddy? Love the analysis. Thanks so much for the support. Simply Ace again. Kane, one of the best passes in world football, has a wide range of passing, which he does to perfection. Only Kevin De Bruyne can match that. I struggle to disagree with that. Audio Artisan, it's a bit gutted we didn't get to see Divine or White in the second half. That's true. And it was a shame that Scarlett only got about 4 minutes as well. He was making some nice runs when the game was done there. And then Simply Ace, Leeds are the definition of suicide football. But we come on, Justin. Kulu. Lovely solo goal. I didn't realise he had that strength. I'm still not sure if he put the ball underneath the guy's legs or the guys thought he's taken a touch and run over it. But the finish, I'm not sure if he's given the keeper the eyes, but the keeper and I thought certainly he was going to go far post and he swung it in near post, caught him unawares. But brilliant solo goal. And just, we've got a player there. We've got a player there. And certainly in the Man City game, looked like he'd been playing with Kane and Son for years. I mean, that front three now is set. And Moura, unfortunately, I like Moura, but he's on the bench now if those three are fit, and a few others as well, Bergwijn. But yeah, Kulu, obviously quiet game against Burnley, but then not a huge amount of people had a good game in that going forward. But yeah, I mean, what a player we've got there potentially.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at, and don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of Lucas Moura. I think the difficulty with him is that he's very much, down the middle. What can he do around the middle area, behind the striker or in the midfield? He'll do a few tricks and then he can, he's not somebody, I don't think I can ever remember seeing Lucas Moura going down the right, on the right-hand side and whipping a ball in. We haven't had anybody for quite a while who's able to do that. And the bits that I've seen so far from Kulusevski, I think, a lot of people were raving a lot about Bentancur, but I thought that wasn't so much of an issue. When Skip's back, we know it's probably going to be Skip and Højbjerg. Having Bentancur gives us now a different option, whether you have a combination of the two or you go all three. I think it will just be nice, hopefully, that the club realise that Harry Winks is not for this level, but we could make some money off of him in the summer. But to me, Kulusevski, I felt, was the more important one, because we saw without him, the ball was going to Emerson Royal to get the ball in. And all we saw from everybody was just dropping back, say, go on then. You're not going to get a decent ball in, so we'll let you have it. And it just meant that we were almost being sort of, everything was either having to come down from the Son side or through the middle, which then didn't give us any other sort of options. I think with Kulusevski, what we're now seeing is, and I mean, he's got his assist against City, where he's put the ball in on a silver platter almost for Kane to get his head to. And that goal against Leeds, and again, I still find it strange that he's now scored more goals than Lo Celso has. Mind you, I don't think that was going to be too difficult to do. But
two goals.
Yeah, but the thing that I loved about that goal more than anything was his hunger, his desire. He's not sort of somebody who's going to be bullied. He was someone who wanted it, who knew there was an opportunity to get the ball, to get in there. And I think what it does do is it puts you in a situation of, you don't know what he's going to do. it's that unpredictability that we have lacked so much. You know, we've got it down the side with Son, but with Kulusevski, we've got somebody there who, and I think that's the reason that he got Meslier, you know, that was sort of down that side, was because it's like, are you going to whip the ball in? Are you going to pass it? Are you going to smash it to the other corner? Or are you going to put it in there? It opens up to so much more that he can do. And to be fair, from what I've seen of him so far, this is a player who, for me, suits the Premier League. You know, he's got the bulk for it. He's got the control. He can, you know, he's got the creativity, the variety. So I think what that does do is it means that if he can, with Son, when Kane is dropping deep, can work on the whole, right, we go forward, Kane's got far more options, you know, and I think that helps. I also think it helped, you know, and he's got a lot of criticism, but I think it did help with Doherty as well, because for me, that's the best performance I've seen Matt Doherty put in a Spurs shirt. You know, he was getting forward, he was giving Kane more options, and it was lovely to see, you know, Sessegnon getting down the left and putting that ball pretty much on a plate for Doherty to score. The bit that is now interesting is the fact that the club are talking about giving Sessegnon a new deal. So it'll be interesting to see what their plans are for Reguilon.
Yeah, just one comment. Mick S. With Kulu, Kane needs to drop deep. With Lucas, he can stay up since Lucas can progress the ball and pass in Kane. But I think with Kulu, it's far better with Kane deep because we don't have a playmaker. But Tommy, with Kulu, two things I particularly like about him. The first one is a lot of people criticised his lack of pace. But as we've seen against City, and certainly this one, his first thought when he gets the ball is to face a defender, because then he can use his trickery and quick feet to get a yard and whip a ball in or get a shot in. And that pretty much goes into simply ace here. He may not be the quickest, looks very good technically, and his finish was excellent. Looks very tricky player and plays without fear, which most players need to learn from. And the second thing, certainly on his goal, was Kane was screaming for it. And it would have been very easy, being that it's Harry Kane, for someone to pass it to Kane, for Kane to finish it. But he was, no, I'm not having any of that. I'm going to finish it. So he takes responsibility. It looks like he takes responsibility, and he knows his strengths and his weaknesses. His weaknesses being his quickness, but his strengths being his quick feet, and looks to play like that. And yeah, what have you made of him so far?
Yeah, I mean, I watched quite a lot of Serie A, and he didn't score a great deal of goals for Parma or Juventus, quite frankly. But he didn't get a great many opportunities at Juventus either. The thing with the transfer is that Juventus are struggling. And you look at it and you think, why would they loan this player out? Why would they sell Bentancur? There's a reason for it. But as Justin said, they might just, he might be just very well suited to the Premier League. And some players are. And he wasn't cheap. He was £31 million. Juventus spent £31 million on this guy when he was 19. So there's pedigree there. They invested in pedigree. We've seen it early on, but we've got to be very, very careful. We've got to be very, very careful about 2 games. It's as simple as that. Because I saw it with Bergwijn when he first came in. He scored 3 or 4 in his first 6 games. Everyone was like, "Wow, 25 million. This guy's 50 million." So we got to be careful. He was outstanding against Man City, but we were allowed to drop very deep against Man City. Leeds, you can do anything. You can drop deep. You can stay high. You can do what you want, and you're still going to look good. So, but Kulusevski, it's his ball control as well. He's very, very good on the ball. Very good, smart on the ball as well, without having to come off the byline inside. That's key. That's key, to be good on the ball. When you're not always going to be able to beat your man, you get stronger opposition. And I'm seeing that. Decision making's good. And obviously coming off the flank. I've done a visual on that, on the opening goal, right? And I'll tell you what, it's crazy. We talk about the man marking. It was never more prevalent than Kulusevski. 4 Leeds players going towards him on the corner flag. It was on the corner flag.
Yeah.
They left 3 players unmarked. Doherty, Kane, and another. So he got through. He played a 1-2 to Doherty. This is how high Doherty was, by the way. He was right up there. He was like an attacking right winger. He played the 1-2 with Kulusevski. Came in,
all of those
smashed it
out,
bottom right. Smashed it bottom right. But we got to remember, that's not going to happen against most teams. 4 players on him, and he was able to get through him. But it was good play. And as someone said, Kane was on the outside of the box when he shot. Kane was on the outside of the box, unmarked as well. That's just how Leeds do things. So he could have had that option, but he's confident boy. Even in the 2 sub appearances, he looked happy with. He looked confident in himself. There were little bits against Brighton where he looked like he wasn't confident off the ball, but on the ball, but off the ball, he looks at home. He looks very much at home. He doesn't look rushed. He looks content, and I like that. What we see off the ball and outside of the game is important sometimes. Good against Man, very relaxed, very good on the ball against Man City. Excellent yesterday. And second half, he done it again. He came inside, smashed it bottom right against Meslier. Meslier made a fantastic save. He thunderbolted that into the bottom right as well. So it's a weird place to go for a winger to hit it into the bottom right near post because you'd expect most keepers to save it. But he done it twice.
Most keepers most keepers expect you to go far post, and he's caught him unawares a little bit there, possibly giving him the eyes with going far post and then whipped it.
And he done it again. He done it again in the second half, and Meslier had to pull off a really good save because that was in the bottom right corner. So we see it's good signs. Good signs from Kulusevski. Early days. We'll give judgment in a month's time, 6 weeks after he's played quite a few games. I think that's the best time to really, really judge a player. But, signs early on are fantastic.
Yeah. What do you think of his kind of combinations with Kane and Son? So, certainly against Man City, that was far more prevalent. The combinations were more with the Leeds defenders because they were the closest ones to him against Leeds. But, I mean, we potentially got a good threesome there up top. Certainly that will... I mean, it's not at this moment in time. It's not going to be combating Mane, Salah, Firmino, and things like that. But it's looking very promising at the moment. But I do get your point. They need to be not reserved, but
Yeah, I mean, he started 2 games.
Maybe a little bit.
He started. The reality is, he started 2 games. So yeah, we have to be very, very careful. Because you don't want to torture yourself. You don't want to torture yourself as Spurs fan. And he's still young. We've got to give him time. Because if he doesn't score in the next 3 games, it doesn't mean he's a terrible signing. Because he doesn't score in the next 3 games, So you've got to give the guy time to settle. And what we've seen so far is very, very good. Even without scoring his goals, he's looked good on the ball. Good ball control and a good brain.
Yeah. Simply Ace has said he's younger than Brian Hill by 2 months. That's 2 good young players we've got. Hill is still with us. Yeah, Kirst in the chat. How you doing, Kirst? And never tire of seeing this. Bob's
Bobby.
in the chat. Kulu plays with maturity, seems to have full knowledge of how Conte wants him to play, looks a real asset. Big love, lads. Right back at you, Bob. Great to see you in the chat. But yeah, was he 21? Seems to know exactly what's required.
He looks older than 21, doesn't he? He looks 30 at least to me. Like,
big, strong lad as well. And Ricky Villa, how you doing? I'm good, Ricky. How are you? Your name's not Ricky, actually. Jens. How you doing, Jens? I'm good. Thank you.
We've got the big people. We've got the big people here now. Kirst, Bob Spur, Jens. Yes. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for watching and getting involved in the chats. For the first goal, Justin, Winks, Sessegnon, Doherty goal combination. That is not a misprint. That actually happened. I watched the game and watched the replays, and that's what happened. What I loved is it was all so simple. These are 3 players that have been criticised recently, and rightly so. And you could be forgiven to try and do something too difficult to go, look what I can do, and then that gets remembered. But Winks' pass, it was the only pass on, played it into Sessegnon's path. Sessegnon could have quite easily tried to, take the defender on and get into the box, but saw Doherty, just a simple pass inside and then a finish. 3 passes, Leeds done 1-0. We can talk about Winks. Is he going to kick on from here? But we've been saying that for about 3 seasons. Doherty is the one who could kick on from here because he's against Emerson, which he's another one that kind of a bit like Marmite. You either love him or hate him. And Sessegnon, I don't know where Region is.
Does anyone actually love Emerson? Well, I want to see the people that love Emerson.
I'm sure there will be some.
Maybe.
And Sessegnon is obviously against Region. I'm not sure where Region is. He did have COVID, but there's talk that Real Madrid want him back. And like you said, Justin, Sessegnon may be getting a new deal. So certainly he could kick on. But, I mean, what did you make of that goal? I mean, it's probably going to be repeating what we've already said. Leeds was so open. But in terms of those 3 in their performance, and particularly the last 2, Sessegnon and Doherty, although you said Doherty best performance. He should have scored later on, but the run he made was there. You know, they say as strikers, don't they? He's not a striker, but they say as strikers, the time to worry when you're not scoring is when you're not getting the chances. That means you're not making the run. So he's not losing any confidence on that aspect. But what did you make of those three, in particular, the two fullbacks?
Yeah, I mean, we have to, I think, take Winks' performance with a pinch of salt here, because what you've got to be looking at is, and I sort of watched, back on Match Today, and they sort of analysed how much space he had to make the pass, which I think what we've got to remember is that you're not going to get that space with most other teams. They're going to at least either press you quicker, or they're going to try and sort of restrict you having much time on the ball. I think the fact of it was that he had so much time to make the pass. I'm surprised you didn't just stop the ball, go and have a cup of tea, come back on, and then pass the ball out to Sessegnon, because it was scary how much time he had. So it was, you've got to make the pass. You can't criticize. You can't just say, oh, because it was Leeds. You have to give credit where credit's due. I think with Winks, though, that we're not going to see him kick on. I think what we have seen is that his level is the Premier League, but I think it's of a level of, say, a Brighton or a Southampton or a Leicester or somebody of that sort of level, maybe Everton, where you're going to be playing those sort of games, and there's not going to be as much of the microscope on your performance, especially as we've got better players. Højbjerg, Skip and Bentancur, those three should mean that Winks doesn't get in that team, and they would still do the same job, if not better. With Sessegnon, I think what we're starting to see, not just from Conte, but from Sessegnon himself, is this sort of, I want to give you time. I want to give you an opportunity. I think you can make this role your own. Now, I've heard the same rumours about Real Madrid coming back in for Reguilón. Myself, I don't have a problem with that. I think I think the deal is it's sort of like 20 million on top of what 15 million. That was it, 15 million pounds on top of what we spent, and I think we spent about 20.
It's going to be 40 if they want him back. Yeah, if they want him back, it's 40 million. It's 40 million.
So to me, I do not see that being a problem. I think that would make sense, and I think that's what Conte's looking at is. Let's not forget, there isn't going to be a war chest in the summer. We know that he is going to have to be clever with what he does. And I think he's looking at Sessegnon as a player. He can convert. He can make him the left wing back. He can make it his own. So if he does have to sell Reguilón, that's 40 million quid. And he can still keep Ben Davies. Ben Davies isn't the best option out there, but Conte relies on him. So I think the fact of his versatility around the left centre back or left wing back means that he is an option you want to keep for any of those positions. So I think that is what we'll see there going forward. And yeah, okay, again, it was against Leeds, but he didn't do the sort of the through ball to Doherty was brilliant. It really was. But coming on to Matt Doherty, I personally think this is a guy playing for his future at the club, because, he absolutely has got an opportunity to do that. I don't think, from what I've seen, and I think Conte's given him plenty of chances in terms of Emerson, but time and time again, we haven't seen enough. And I know that I've heard this before, where people say he's a young player, you've got to give players time and things like that. But I actually find that really annoying. And the reason I find that annoying is because Manchester City don't sign players so that they become what they should be in 18 months' time. Liverpool didn't sign Luis Diaz now because they thought, he'll be good for it in a season and a half's time. They bought him because he'll be good now, and he is. You look at all the players the top clubs sign, they sign them so they can drop into the squad from wherever they are and do it now. And that is the part.
But can we attract those players? But this
is where I think if Conte is clever enough, the answer to that is yes. Because if you look at the players that we've got, let's not forget, there was talk of 2 centre-backs being needed. And Dyer has made that middle centre-back position his own, So I think when you look at it, I mean, yes, you could say 3 or, because it depends what he does. But let's not forget, we've got players that you can get off the books and get money for. I think they would still get some money for Sanchez. I think they would get money for Rodon. So you could get those players out. But technically, what they will want is a left-sided centre-back who can come in and hit the ground running. And also, not only that, there are still a lot of freebies that are available in the summer. So you're not talking about you've got to spend 50, 60, 70 million pounds. You just got to do what Tottenham don't seem to have a problem with here. He's offering big contracts. They've got a deal on the table for Tabala. They've got a deal on the table for Kessie. There are players out there. If you look at the players potentially, I mean, I look at it quite a lot, the freebie ones that are coming up in the summer. And there are plenty there that Tottenham could take. And if they could get 2 or 3, I mean, like, I like Andreas Christensen of Chelsea, and he's going to be a freebie. He would also, I think, if I recall, he comes under homegrown as well, because I think that's the reason they want to keep Sessegnon, because he's homegrown. That helps reduce that. And then that means that there's more money available to go and get a world-class player. So I think if Conte can make players work like Sessegnon and then potentially sell the likes of Winks, Doherty, he's got what is it? I think about 10. No, we're on 20. We've got 14 games left, haven't we? I think we're on 24
Something
now.
like
So
that,
we've got 14 games left. He has now got a golden opportunity to determine if he's got a future at the football club, because he did it okay today, but he wasn't that great against. He's not been that great this season, and he's not been great really since he's been here. So I think we have to take one game at a time with him to see if this was a flash in the pan, or is he going to make that right wing back position his own? Because if he is, brilliant, saves us even more money.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Bob Spurs saying, sorry, excuse me, Cess and Doherty have had one good game versus a side who gave them space galore. It's all about showing the same intent versus Everton and Man United. And then Aaron and Mark have gone a bit over the top and got a bit carried away. We call him Dohertino now. Mark's gone with Doha Kane. Aaron saying he's the Irish Cafu.
Can we get taxis for these ones? No chance. I'm sorry.
I think they're more tongue in cheek. I think they're tongue in cheek. Simply Ace.
Remember Kirakes before he came? The Romanian Maldini.
Simply Ace said Doherty scored 1 goal, assisted 2, compared to Emerson, who assisted 1 goal. Doherty has rarely played, says it all about Emerson this season. Doherty is a pretty good wing back at best. I think he is. I mean, you don't get to where he was with Wolves without being a good wing back, and we played him as a full back. Ricky Veers said better than Royale at the moment. Talk about Doherty. Aaron's laughing either at Vicky's comment or
me telling him to get a taxi.
But yeah, in terms of those two, Tommy, I mean, I know you're let's just say not a fan of Emerson. We'll just say that, we'll be polite.
Emerson and Dyer are my most hated players.
In Sessegnon, I'd love to see him get a run in the team. My only issue is his injury worries. And, say, Justin said, 14 games left. I can't see Sessegnon playing all of them or the majority of them, because I think he'll probably get injured again, which is a real shame, because he looked really good yesterday, albeit, like Bob said, against a team who don't believe in closing down. And Doherty played a really good game, but I know it's only Leeds, but do you think that was an important performance by both of them? Sessegnon getting an assist, Doherty getting a goal and chances as well against a poor team, just to get confidence up, saying, see, I can do it if people give me space. Now, and then hopefully now I can kick on. Because it looks like Reguilón's out for a little while and Emerson's completely out of favour. So it looks to me like those two are the preferred fullback position. So do you think it would have done their confidence a big shot in the arm for those? Certainly that first goal in particular, and the rest of the way they played in that game.
Well, there's a couple of things. With Sessegnon, it's one game, and the problem with Sessegnon is his injuries. He's injured all the time, so I don't think you can invest too much in him when you've got the constant injuries. Him and Doherty were fantastic yesterday, and the thing you mentioned the confidence thing. That's with the team as well. Even though it's just Leeds, 4-0 away from home, it's against a weak team, but we can go on a bounce from here. We can drive on and hopefully win the next few games. Same with Sess, same with Doherty. Perform really well on the day. Not against the greatest team, but it could be the start. It could be the kickstart to Sessegnon's career, because he hasn't had that. Same with Doherty at wing back. Doherty needs to be playing. Doherty needs to hold down that place for the next month. He needs to be playing week in, week out, so we can rate him. We've rated Emerson for 6 months. We haven't had Doherty at right wing back yet. Yeah. That was the position we signed him in. Wolves finished 7th, 2 seasons on the bounce with him in there, which is ridiculous, quite frankly. Getting promoted from the Championship, 2 7th place finishes. And whenever they played against us, he was outstanding, Doherty. They were a bogey team then, weren't they? He was absolutely outstanding. So he deserves a run at right wing back, not because he's shown anything great, but because the competition's so poor with Emerson and whoever else is there. So he needs a run for sure. Back to Sessegnon. The thing with Reggie is, I don't think Real Madrid are going to spend anywhere near £40 million on Reggie because they've got Ferland Mendy at left back. And he's one of the best in the world now, Ferland Mendy. So I can't see him. They don't have money anyway, Real Madrid. I can't see him spending £40 million.
Well, that's never stopped them before. How they're going to be getting a Mbappe on a wage, which is going to be about 300 grand a week. God knows how much in the length of his contract when they're £1 billion in debt is. But anyway, that's for another.
Yeah, but still, I can't see them spending 40 million when they've got a very good left back already, and they haven't got much money. So I don't think. I think we're okay in that regard. But yeah, I mean, if we sell him, it's not the end of the world. We get the £40 million, so it'd be okay. But then you say if Sessegnon takes his place, Reggie, from here until the end of the season, then he's certainly not going to go to Real Madrid, is he? If they've seen that Sessegnon's taking his place. So but Sessegnon, early days, I think he's a left winger. We signed him as a left winger. He showed in the last third. In the first 15 minutes, he put 3 great balls in. 3 fantastic balls in. One of them resulted in the goal from Doherty, but he put 2 other great balls in just in the first 15, 20 minutes. In the final third, he's fantastic. We signed him as a left winger. He was outstanding. That's why we spent £30 million on him, as a left winger. And we still haven't played him there. Same with Doherty. We haven't played him at right wing back. The position we signed him for. We haven't seen Sessegnon on the left wing. You can see him against Leeds because they leave so much space. He should be back up for Son, quite frankly. I still don't think he's going to do it at left wing back. But we'll see, We'll see. Again, I keep saying it's a bit of a get out, saying, let's wait for the next month, the next 6 weeks. But it's still, it's one performance from Sessegnon, as Bob said. It's a couple of games from Kulusevski. So let's just take it easy for a while. But that goal was fantastic. The one they linked up with. And Skip, Winks did start it off, I should say. Winks did start it off. The space they gave him. I've never seen a team give a centre midfielder that much space. Winks. But to be fair, he evaded a few challenges and got the ball through. But as Justice said, he had so much time to do it. But no, it was a good link up, and I was very, very impressed with Sessegnon in the first 15 minutes. He was fantastic.
Well, I've got one of my best mates. He's a Fulham fan. He said when we signed him, he's not a left back. He's a winger. But I thought as soon as Conte arrived, if he can stay fit and get in the team, he's our Victor Moses, Sessegnon. So it remains to be seen. But like we've said, injuries are what's hampering him, or have been hampering him. Hopefully that's behind him. A couple of comments. Aaron says in reply to Ricky Viatia, HFC, always so embarrassed watching him play for us. I've got to gloat the moment up. I'm not sure who he's talking about there.
He's probably talking about Doherty, I would have thought.
Yeah,
or
possibly.
Winks. Could be either one of those.
Yeah, and Ricky said, I know the feeling with Nielsen and Eriksson at first. Always nice when it comes good. Simply Ace, a couple of comments. You can only beat what's in front of you. Think Sessegnon, Doherty should be given a run, as Reggie and Emerson have struggled this season. He also goes on to say that Reggie has been a huge
I think he's been all right. Do you know what? I disagree. I think out of the wing backs, he's certainly impressed the most this season.
Last season he was good, wasn't he?
I've got to say, I've sort of bit my tongue a little bit, but Tommy, I'm disagreeing with a couple of things here. The first one is Sessegnon, because the problem being is that I think when you look at what Conte is trying to do there, I think that he can't be a left winger anymore. I just look at, if you're going down the route of him being a backup to Son, I think the problem that is that he will not play enough games. And I think if he can continue, and absolutely I agree with what Chris is saying, and you are saying about the fact that his injury record hasn't been great since he's been here, and he has to stay fit now for the remainder of the season if he is to prove. But I think what we are seeing is, a real sort of a potential. I mean, he's 21 years old, and a bit like what you were saying, Chris, about the whole Victor Moses thing. This is something that he could potentially build onto. He could grow into that role, and he's got the time to do it. But the second thing, and I was going to say it, but I thought I'd let you have a moment. How on earth you can still be critical of Eric Dyer is unbelievable. This is a guy who has shown how bad we are in defence when he's not there. And since he's been back, we have looked more sustainable at the back. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Him and Romero you will find. And I was looking. If it was me, I think Rob Magnoni. I mean, you probably know more about him from Serie A in AC.
He's good left centre back. Yeah, he's good left-footed centre back.
I think my gut instinct would be that Tottenham will go all out for him as well, because if you had him, Romero, and Dyer,
he would be a great signing.
That itself gives a lot more stability at the back. So I think that would be there. But yeah, I will say I'm sorry, but I don't believe the Virgil van Dijk thing that goes around, but there is
well every summer he's a top 3 to get out by Spurs fans, Eric Dyer, and in the first 6 months he's great.
I can guarantee you this, and people in the chat, you can prove us wrong. If you had to pick 3 players that Tottenham were to sell that you could get rid of, you can get rid of any 3, not the ones on loan, but any of the 3 that are there now. Who would you get rid of? I will be stunned if any of them put Dyer, because straight away you got Doherty, you got Winks, you got Royale. Bang, there's 3. I'm telling you now, Dyer will not be in the top 3.
It's but my take on Dyer, my take on Dyer isn't. Yeah, I mean, out of those in the top 3, he's. My problem with him, he's been there for 7 years. He gets in the team because he's been there for 7 years. So a new manager can come in and say, well, look, of course he's going to be a big personality in the dressing room. Of course he's going to get first team straight away because he's been in the dressing room for 7 years where most players haven't. So new managers will come in and say, right, Pochettino, his last 6 months, couldn't get in the team. The Champions League run, he was nowhere to be seen, didn't get in the final. Jose Mourinho, last season, he was playing centre-back. We started making loads of errors. 4 or 5 games before Mason was in charge. Even Rodon got in front of Dyer. 4 or 5 games. And then this season, so since he's been back, so we look at Dyer since he's been back. So I think it was the 2 Carabao Cup games against Chelsea. People were like, we need him back. Well, it was Chelsea. We lost 3-0 with Dyer against Chelsea. We lost 3-0 Man United and Liverpool. But okay, he's back in with Conte, so it's a different situation. He comes back, Premier League game, we lose 2-0. Shocking. Him and Sanchez, shocking. He gets injured again. We beat Leicester 3-2. We beat Brighton 3-1 without Dyer. We lose to Wolves and Southampton without Dyer, right? We get Dyer back in for Man City. We win. Burnley, we lose. Leeds, we win. We should have conceded 3 or 4 on Saturday. Easily, we should have conceded 3 or 4. You should have conceded 2.
Yeah. What I would say though is that having somebody like Dyer in there creates a better shape. You've got to bear in mind that we, Tottenham as a way that they are set up, I've not got the money to go, and I think that's the key part about all of it. With my sort of feelings on Eric Dyer, if you were to turn around and go out and say, right, we need to go and replace this guy, and we're going to go and spend big money. I think the problem is if Tottenham go and do that, because let's not forget, they've got to make Romero's deal permanent. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. So that's 50 million quid straight away that is coming out of this window. So then you're looking at, well, if we then went and bought someone of that sort of similar ilk, that's another 50 million quid. You're then restricting yourself on what you can do elsewhere. And I think that's the whole point of where, Tottenham are going to have to be clever. And as I said, with Rob Magnoli, Dyer and Romero, if that is your three, and for me personally, I do not understand why he doesn't, but Joe Rodon should be playing more, but him as like the one that you would have and then get rid of Sanchez. That in itself, I think in an ideal world, maybe not have Dyer, but in terms of what Tottenham have available to them and how Daniel Levy is going to operate, I think we have to accept that Dyer. One of the things I will say is Dyer makes Romero look better. That is the one thing I've seen when Romero has played with Sanchez or Davies without Dyer. He looks like a
that's
rabbit.
That's because he plays in the middle and he's not suited for a middle.
Yeah,
He's
and
for
that's
probably
the
right
thing.
one.
Yeah, and that's the
what
thing
Dyer
with
allows him to
where if you got the guy from AC Milan and Romero in there, one of the things that Tottenham have always struggled with is putting square pegs in round holes. Whereas if you had those three, they all know their positions, they all know their jobs. All three of them, I think, would work very, very well.
Yeah. A couple of comments. Simply Ace regarding Reguilon. He's saying he's been a disappointment because he has world-class talent and can do more. You could argue Kane was that at the start of the season. And then the comments for you, Justin. Is Dyer in the top three? No. For Emerson, Winks and Sanchez for Simply Ace, Dyer's number 4. Shabina M, how you doing? Winks, Mora and Sanchez. And for Ryan McFarlane, it's Winks, Sanchez and Winks.
I think he wants Winks out. I've just got a feeling you don't like Winks.
I'm not sure. It's 50-50 for me. Simply Ace, Rodon is better than both Sanchez and Dyer, in my opinion. But yeah, in terms of the defence, I thought Romero was superb. Lloris, again, is I don't know what's happened with him. Mistaken 3 games straight. Romero, I thought was superb.
There's a problem with Romero as well. I don't like to be the nasty guy, but I'll go back and watch the games. And he was at fault for the Koch chance. He completely lost Koch.
Was that the one
wrong,
off the post?
wrong side? It was a wrong side of Koch in the first 2 minutes. It was a free header. To be fair, the defensive line was shocking. Set pieces, we are shocking. There's no organisation. Doesn't matter who's there. Koch went up for the header. If he didn't win the header, you had Aylin and another chap standing right in front of Dyer, not marked. So Koch should have scored. First 2 minutes, free header, completely free header. And Romero lost it. He was wrong side of him. He done it against me. He done it against me as well. Me beat him to the ball at Burnley and they got the winner. So he's got I love Romero. He's ultra aggressive in the header and he's ultra aggressive on the ground. And I do agree with Justin in terms of having that central centre-back that sits gets the best out of Romero. 100%. 100%. But for me, the problem is, as you said, Romero as the main centre-back was an issue against Wolves and Southampton because he's too aggressive. Dyer, for me, is too defensive. He's too deep. As we saw after 27 minutes against Leeds, they hit the byline time and time again without risk of being offside. That's what happens when you play ultra deep. No risk of being offside. It was a matter of time before they scored. Somehow they didn't score. Dallas open goal, Rafinha post twice, Koch free header. Somehow they didn't score. They should have scored. It should have been like 6-4. We deserved to win the game or 8-4, something like that, because there were so many chances. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, it's one of those. We'll wait till the end of the season. It's been 6.5 years and 7 years with Dyer, but we'll wait till the end of the season. And look, I hope he does well. I hope he performs. The fact of the matter is, we could get rid of 3 or 4 centre backs. We really sort of do need to get rid of 3 or 4 centre backs because Rodon's just not getting in the team. I don't know how to rate him because he doesn't play, and managers don't fancy him. So if managers don't fancy him, then you think to yourself, well, there's got to be a problem there in training. He might be Brighton level. That's the thing with him. He might be. Same with Winksy, as you say, Brighton, Southampton type level player. That's why he can't quite get in. So the back line is a problem for me. The back line is still a very big problem, and it's something we need to sort out. The other positions I can see, Bentancur, Kulusevski, we know Son and Kane. There's potential there. There really is potential there. But the back line needs to change dramatically this season. It's not the most romantic position. It's not, because they don't score goals. They don't make assists. Fans don't really, say, oh, it's a great defensive line. Look at this defensive line. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but
it's
you
not
say
going to
that
be something you look at. But
you say that, but
big
you look at
signings.
Liverpool with Virgil van Dijk. You know, he's gone in there, and that was 75 million quid, and look
Yeah.
what they've won with him. So I think ultimately centre backs, yeah, okay, may not be the flashy what's it one, but I think from Tottenham's perspective, if they can bring people in that are going to improve, and that's what I've always found frustrating with Spurs is the fact of it's not buying better. It's always buying the potential. It's not buying, right, this is a ready-made, bang, he goes in, he makes us better. I think in January, we bought 2 players who do that. So it will be interesting this summer where they go with that, because I don't think they can go down the potential route anymore.
And with Conte, it is a different matter with Conte. And people forget, it's not just Conte. You've got 2 world-class attackers, Kane and Son. People want to come. Players want to come and play with them. So it's a selling. That's a selling aspect to a team as well. But we need to get up there. I don't think top 4 is going to happen. We need to get at least top 6. We need to get at least top 6 because, the top players want to play in the Champions League. So it's going to be tricky. It was essential to get into the top 4. But we've got Conte, we've got Kane and Son, and that is certainly a selling point. And we need to change the brief from 20-year-olds who could be good in a year or 2 years' time, because that's just not working, is it?
No. What did you make as well of Lloris? I mean, he's made mistakes now in 3 games straight. I mean, I don't want to get into a situation that people should be having a go at players, but if that was Galini doing that, he'd be absolutely crucified.
Yeah.
And it's fair enough that Lloris has got what would you say, credit in the bank or whatever because of how he has played. But I mean, he did all the hard work on Saturday by coming out and sweeping up. Just stick your foot through it. He's tried to pass it to whoever it was in front of him, and then I think it's Cocker's read it and brilliant challenge by Ben Davies, although Cock having an allergic reaction to shooting on goal. And then
that one was Dallas. That one was Dallas, but
Dallas.
Still,
yeah.
he's got to put that away.
You've got that goal. You hit that first time.
Apologies to Mr. Cock there, having a go at you for not shooting, and it wasn't you. But Lloris could have easily got sent off, because then after that, he's tried to use his hands to get the ball, and he could have easily got the ball sent off for that or clipped the player.
People never mention that. But I thought that when he come out and he had his hands to the side, nobody mentioned that in the commentary team. I was like, did I just see that wrong, or I don't know what was going on there? But yeah, he did.
But would you make, Tommy, of all of these mistakes creeping in? There were 2 or 3 in the Wolves game, 1 in the City game for the first goal, and then this one that luckily didn't go in. But I mean, why do you think the mistakes have crept back in, and how many more do you think he's allowed before people start going, well, do we need to get rid of him and get a new keeper in?
New contract. It's hard to say. It's awful to say, but since he signed the new contract, he literally has gone downhill.
Do you think he's taken his rested on his laurels a little bit?
The first 6 months, this season, is the best Lloris I've ever seen, and he's been here 10 years, and he's been phenomenal for us. For France, French captain, World Cup winning captain, great goalkeeper. I don't think we should have given him a 2.5-year contract. I don't think we should give him a 2.5-year contract. That was give him a season and a half. So the rest of this season, because he's 36 years old, you give him 2.5 years. Sometimes you get your best out of yourself when you got to fight. When there's competition, you got to fight for yourself. Maybe that's happened. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's a coincidence. But it seems like a little bit too much of a coincidence. The fact of the matter is, against Leeds, the line was all over the place again. Somehow he kept it clean. That's why he come out. Nobody knew what they were doing. That's why he come out there. He's got to take responsibility. The Wolves game, you can't put that on the defence. That was just, I don't know what he was trying there. That slap, punch, I don't know. But we lost the game, basically.
Well, it was the first shot as well. He's palmed that straight out. Very similar to Mendy in the final yesterday. But then he's made an unbelievable second save. But, it was Jamie Redknapp in the commentary or punditry going, it's a good first save. It was a bollocks first save. He's put it straight back into the bloody middle again. Exactly what Lloris did against Wolves. He hasn't got away with it. Mendy has, because he's got up and Mane's missed a bit of a sitter. But
phenomenal saves in the first 6 months of the season, though. He made some absolutely brilliant, top saves, Lloris. So it's weird that it's just sort of gone downhill. But hopefully it's just a little blip.
Yeah, and Simply Ace has said, since making mistakes since signing his contract, before that, very good. What do you make of him, Justin? And why do you think these mistakes have crept in? And because that 2-year contract that Tommy talked about, the way that I read that when it was like he signed a 2-year contract was in a year's time we'll get a new goalkeeper in who will be the number one, and he's going to be fighting with Loris to force him out and make number one himself. But what do you make of the 2-year contract and the mistakes that are creeping in? And again, same question that I asked Tommy: how many more mistakes has he got before we start going? We need a new goalkeeper here.
I think
Simply as he said, he's got no competition, which doesn't help. But he didn't have that at the start of the season either, really.
No, I think the difficulty is that, let's not forget, we've had him. He's been our keeper for 10 years, and we've had these mistakes for 10 years. It's not, they're highlighted now because it's 3 games in a row that we've seen the mistakes, but we know that this is something that has been with him. But, so I think it is a case of, when you look at it over a season, throughout his time at Tottenham, there's always been a Lloris mistake, not just 1 or 2, but generally 3, 4, 5 or 6. So it doesn't surprise me. And I think one of the things, I do agree with what Tommy said there, which was the fact that he has had a good, first half of the season. I don't believe it's to do with the contract. I think it is just a case of, one of the things you do find is you trust in your defense. If you trust the people in front of you, then you are more relaxed about what they can do. And Tommy was right, at times the defense was a little bit all over the show, so he probably didn't have the faith in them. But we got to remember, I don't think the 2-year contract was given to him because we expect him to be at the top for the next 2 years. I think what we've done is we have come up with a transition period where the club will look for, and I think that's what they were trying to look at with Galini. I think the whole point with Galini was to say, could he be the replacement to Lloris? And he made it abundantly clear that the answer was no. I think the fact that Tottenham in the summer will look at their options. I think they will possibly see if there is something to be done with Dean Henderson. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something they wouldn't look at. I mean, I think if they could get him for maybe 20, 25 million, I think that would be good business. I think, again, we have to look at Nick Pope. There's an option there if Burnley go down. I think it only happens if Burnley go down, though, with him.
Homegrown as well. We need to get the homegrown players in. So a nice English keeper would be fantastic.
If you're
English keeper would be fantastic.
You've got also Sam Johnson at West Brom, So there are options there for homegrown younger goalkeepers that can come in, make the place their own, and then eventually, Lloris will then ride off into the sunset, because I think at that point he'll be 38. So the deal wasn't so much done because the club, I hopefully weren't, stupid enough to think we're just going to milk him for literally every point until his final game in 2 years, and then maybe try and sign him up for another couple of years because he's had a blinding couple of weeks. I'm hoping that the view is that, again, kind of going back to what I was saying with the likes of Dyer, with the likes of Sessegnon, players that that you can sort of usually rely on, save yourself some money that you can put somewhere else. So, but I think if there was a deal for Henderson to be done, I would love Henderson. I would love either Sam Johnston, or I would love Nick Pope. I think someone like that, as Tommy rightly said, allows for the homegrown situation to be covered, and would then mean that transition away from Lloris into one of them, I think would work. And if we did get European football, then it would mean that would in effect then become your international goalkeeper and cup competition goalkeeper, a bit like we saw with Liverpool with Kelleher, I think it is. Yeah. So we do see that does work for the bigger clubs. So it's something that Tottenham need to get better at doing.
Yeah. And simply Ace has said it, to your point there, Justin. When Lloris has Emerson, Sanchez, Dyer and Davies in front of him, that can make you Capitals very nervous. And Aaron has said his conversation with Vicky in the chat is all about their homegrown players. So he was talking about Doherty. Gavin Bazunu, can't stop plugging this lad, only about 20, contract up soon with City, Irish international. I love him in. What position
did you see him for the under-21s in Aaron? Do you see him for the under-21s? when you watch Ireland play? Is that what it is? He's not
he's
first
a
team for Ireland.
No. He is first team. I think Gavin Basunu.
He's
I think
Ireland's
he's the
first team.
goalkeeper. Yeah, he's the goalkeeper, Irish number 1, I think now. So yeah,
Bloody
fair
hell.
dues. That is actually a good shout. Someone like him, if his contract is up, if it is up in
That goes
the
to your
summer,
point earlier as well, Justin.
Playing devil's
the
advocate here. Playing devil's advocates here. Troy
Yeah.
Parrott's their first team striker.
First choice
He's
goalie.
one of their first choice strikers as well at the moment, Ireland. How the mighty have fallen, because Ireland once upon a time were absolutely magnificent. Roy Keane. Oh my God, they had some unbelievable talent back there. Yeah, Staunton left back, yes.
Paul
Even
McGrath
Noel Quinn.
as well.
Noel Quinn with Keane. I'm trying to think centre. Richard Dunn was all right, centre back as well. He was actually a solid centre back, Richard Dunn.
All teams go through their cycles, don't they? And we were.
But no, I do agree with what Aaron is saying. Basunu would actually be a good shout, and if they can get him at a cheap price, that then would actually then go alongside Lloris for the 2 years and say, right, now make this position your own.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron, mate. I'm sure it'll come round full swing. Like Liverpool. They had a horrible 15 years or so. It'll come round. You probably got to wait a decade, but
when does ours come round then? If you've got to wait a decade, because we've been waiting. With all due respect, we've been waiting more than a decade. To be fair.
Well, that 15-16 thing, that was happening was the first time that ever happened in my lifetime. But yeah, we don't want to replicate that and still not win anything, do we? We got to start winning things. You got to start winning things. It starts tomorrow. Borough in the quarterfinal.
You've segued lovely there, Tommy. You're doing my job
perfect,
for me.
Man. I knew that was coming.
Middlesbrough lineup and prediction. So obviously we've got an FA Cup game tomorrow. Gone are the days that FA Cup games are now at the weekend because of all the fixture congestion. But so we played Saturday lunchtime, we play tomorrow evening, and then we play on Monday. So, I mean, Tommy, this is a perfect chance. You could literally play the same team for 3 games straight. Can you almost, or was it Saturday, Sunday, Monday? 3.5 days off, 3 3/4 days off after the Leeds game, which, to be fair, was a fairly easy game. We didn't have to do too much, certainly in that second half. And then we got Tuesday to Monday, 6 days off before the Everton game. So what do you make of the lineup? Do you think it'll be exactly the same team because of those gaps? It's not like you played on a Sunday or Saturday evening and then you play on the Tuesday again. What do you think the lineup will be? Do you think we'll make any tweaks or changes, or do you think it will be as close to the Leeds first 11 as he can?
I'm trying to think about this. I think we're certain the formation's going to be the same because we know we're going to play 3 at the back, and we know we only have 2 centre midfielders fit, so we're only going to play 2 centre midfielders. So it has to be a 3-4-3. So it'll certainly be Winks and Højbjerg. You'd imagine. Maybe if it was a third round or something like that, maybe you could play Harvey White. But this is to get into the quarterfinals, so we still got to go pretty strong. So I think Højbjerg, Winks in the centre.
Potential banana skin as well. Middlesbrough will be bang up for this. So
they beat Man United.
They'll be bang up at Old Trafford as well. They'll be bang up for this, and we've really.
This is a Chris Wilder team. This is a Chris Wilder team doing well in the Championship. They're no mugs. They really are no mugs. So you got to go strong. Yeah. Centre backs, I'd probably keep it the same. Just to keep the form going. As you said, I don't think it was great defensively on the weekend, but we kept a clean sheet, and hopefully, the players can get confident from that. So, I would play Reggie definitely. The back line, I would definitely put Reggie in for this game because Sessegnon gets injured a lot as well. So 2 games in 3 days, I don't think would be good for him. And Reggie's been our best wing back this season. He hasn't been great, but he's still been our best wing back. Doesn't say a great deal, when you got Emerson, Doherty, and Sess, who hasn't played, quite frankly. But for me, he has been pretty good. So he comes back in for me, coming back from injury. Doherty starts because I can't stand Emerson. And then you've got Son and Kane have to start.
Fan. Every time I've been on a stream with you, you're full of praise for the guy.
It hurts to say Dyer starts. Trust me, it hurts to say Dyer starts. But I think, we've got to start him because he's the only centre-back that will cover. He's the only one that will sit back. So I'd keep the back 3. Up top, Kane and Son have to play. They have to play. I'd put Lucas in. I'll put Lucas in for Kulusevski, just for Borough. If it was a Premier League game, I'll go back to Kulusevski. Just for Borough, I'd put him in. Because Kulusevski, 4 games in 9 days as well. He's still only 21. I don't want to lose him. To injury. But it's a good point you make. We haven't got City, Everton for another 6 days after this. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. But young boys like Cess and Kulusevski getting too many games, you could get injured, and there's a problem there. So Reggie and Lucas in. That's where I'd go. I think they're the two changes I'd make.
I'd be playing as close to that Leeds 11 that we can, just for confidence sake. Certainly, Sessegnon and Reggie is a tricky one, but I'd probably lean with Sessegnon's used to playing like teams like Middlesbrough because of when he was at Fulham. Wolves with Doherty, I know it was a long time ago, but just for their confidence, just to show that if you do perform, you've got a chance of staying in the team. So I'd try and pick as close to the first 11 as I can. And Kulusevski, you can play anybody. If you're worried about injuries, you don't play Kane or Son. And Kulusevski, introduction to English football, a good old-fashioned cup tie, a lower league team who will be up for it, potential banana skin, showing what it's all about. But Justin, for you, the lineup?
Same. To be honest, I wouldn't make any changes. I would stick exactly as it is. I think what we've got to be looking at here is how important this game is and how important what Conte is trying to achieve. And when we look at, particularly the likes, and I get what Tommy is saying about Sessegnon, but the thing for me is that this is a test for him. We can't sit there anymore and say, right, we'll wrap him in cotton wool and we won't put him in because he might get injured. No, he has to play. If this is the left wing back that Conte wants, then he has to play. I personally think, no changes need to be made. We go for that, go for this. If this is what he believes is the starting 11, we've got till Monday, till the next game against Everton. We need to go out there all guns blazing and get into the quarterfinals because that is so important. So it is an opportunity. Yes, we haven't come, up against any of the big boys just yet, but Middlesbrough, they turned over, as you said, Man United at Old Trafford. So it's not going to be easy. We know it's going to be a tough game. So I personally think go with the same team. If it's not working, then make the changes. But we're not stable enough or good enough that we can say, actually, we'll bring in, Roden or we'll bring in Bergwijn, things like that. We have to almost sit there and think, this is what we've got to go for. And we've got to get ourselves in the quarterfinals. Simple as that.
Yeah, simply, I agree. Simply, Ace said same formation: Bergwijn for Kulu, Reggie for Sessegnon. I mean, there is an element of keeping everybody happy, but yeah, for me, just confidence sake, I'll be keeping the same.
For me, Reggie's a much better. Forget injuries. For me, Reggie's a much better left wing back than Sessegnon. Anyway, if I'm being perfectly honest, that's that's how I see it. But we'll see. Hopefully, Sessegnon can do something.
Yeah, we've got a question from Jay Ashraf. I'll read it out, but we'll definitely come back to this after Middlesbrough. Just looking ahead, do we keep the same lineup as Leeds game for the Everton game too? Can we break Everton down? We'll definitely come back to that. I'll bring that back up in a bit. But for the Middlesbrough game, Tommy, I mean, I would be. There's more chance of me winning every single lottery for the rest of the year, I think, than Middlesbrough being as open as Leeds were. I think we're in for a real. It will be Burnley-esque, I think, and their fans will be bang up for it. It's a chance to get into a quarter.
Well, that's a problem. If it's Burnley-esque, then that's a problem.
Yeah. So I say every preview I do on here, I say it every bloody time. First 50-50, knock someone up in the air and show them they're in for a game because they're make no mistake, they're going to show us that they're up for a game, and that will get their crowd up. And then our job in that first 10 minutes is shutting that crowd up because their crowd will be bang up for it. That will translate to the players. So you shut them up by going into them, showing them in for a game and having a few chances yourselves. Or if you can't do that, just cutting out their chances. But how do you see the game going? Do you think it will be a really scrappy one? Or I'd be absolutely amazed, like I say, if it's going to be as open as Leeds and Kane and Son have the freedom of the Riverside to go and do their stuff. But how do you see the game going?
Myself? Me? You're coming to me first?
Yeah.
Right. So So I think the first 20, 30 minutes in games are so important for Spurs right now. I mean, it's a cliche to say, oh, the first goal is key. But I think the first 20, 30 minutes in general, if we don't score in the first 20, 30 minutes, our mentality is quite weak. And it's like the world is on our shoulders. You can see it in the players' faces. And if it's against Middlesbrough away, not an easy place to go with a Chris Wilder team. You talk about 50-50s, they're going to put their foot in. Wilder is that sort of manager. You don't get in the team. And if you're not putting your foot in one challenge, he'll take you off. He doesn't care. He will take you off. So that will be a tough game away from home. I'll be honest with you. I'm not confident. I'm not confident because we come off it's only 3 days since the last game. And it was Leeds. And we lost to Burnley this time last week. It's going to be a tricky game. If we think we're going to win 3 or 4-0, it's not happening. We'll win by 1 goal at the best. Marlon was on my stream last night.
Comments 4-1 in a minute.
Marlon was on my stream last night, and everyone said win, and Marlon just said exactly what I wanted to say as the host, but I wasn't going to say it. It was like, it's going to go 1-1. It's going to be 1-1 in extra time. We'll nick it. That's what I think is going to happen. 1-1 extra time. We'll nick it.
But if that does happen, it's not the end of the world.
It's not going to be 2 or 3-0. No, it don't matter as long as you get there.
As well as the fact that it's 6 days until the next game. If this was a Wednesday and then our next game's on the Saturday, you don't want extra time. It doesn't really matter in this one. Just get the job done. And they beat Man United at Old Trafford. So, yeah, it's not going to be an easy game at all. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's, like Marlon said, extra time, score draw. Or the 1-0.
It's going to be so different. It's going to be like the opposite of the Leeds game in terms of how the opposition set up, and that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be more than 2 goals in the actual game. But Justin, how do you see the game going? Pretty much similar to what we said.
I think it'll be scrappy. But what I do think, and we, hopefully we're starting to see more and more of now, is when Kane is dropping deep, Son and Kulusevski go forward. That is we haven't got that playmaker to do it. Kane is that playmaker. So if he drops deep, they need to go forward, because what that then does is it creates uncertainty in the Middlesbrough back line. It creates uncertainty about what is going to happen. Does Kane go forward? Do we pass the ball on to him? Is he dropping deep because people are going to go forward? I think the problem that we had in the Burnley game is he was dropping deep and everyone else was dropping deep. So there was nobody up there to pass it to. So apart
from Emerson.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. But from my aspect, if we're going to make it work, then we need to see more of the variety. That's the key for me, the variety of not just being Kane up top, or not just being Kane dropping deep. It's either if Kane's dropping deep, other people are going on ahead of him, or vice versa. That is when Tottenham works best. If we do that, we'll win, cut 2-0. I don't think it'll be a problem. But if we all drop deep and we don't go as a unit in terms of what we need to do, it could get scrappy and absolutely could go to extra time.
Yeah, it was simply Ace has predicted. Middlesbrough will keep it tight, sit back and give us the ball. He's also predicted if we lose, Conte will go potty. But yeah, predictions, Tommy, in terms of scoreline. I'm not going to do a prediction. I'm a coward. I don't do that on here, and it's my show, so I don't need to. But
yeah, as I said, 1-1. It's going to be 1-1. Extra time. We'll nick it 2-1. Hopefully, Kane scores, because it will keep his run going, and against Everton and all the games after that. So we have played 24 games now, I think 24 or 25. So yeah, we need Kane to keep bouncing. We know he's going to play every game. So get a go against Borough, go through, get a couple against Everton, relegate Everton, the Dele Alli hitching derby, as we're going to call it for Everton, relegate them. So, but first of all, Borough, we should get through. But I have to say I'm scared. I'm scared.
Jens said 2-1 Spurs, and one thing on Kane in the Leeds one, which I meant to say, but I didn't. His goal, very reminiscent against Leeds. This is very reminiscent of Ronaldo's goal against us in El Sackio 1, where a lot of strikers would take their eyes off the ball because they think the defender's going to get it, but it's just eyes on the ball. This ball is going to come to me, and then I'm going to finish it. Absolutely superb, and that's Kane back to his best. if he can carry on doing that. Brilliant pass from Højbjerg as well, although he did have the space of Ellenbode to be able to do that. Simply Ace, 3-1 to Tottenham. We've scored a second and third goal in extra time, so that's 1-1 and then 3-1 in extra time. Justin?
2-0. I sit there and I think
in normal time?
In normal time, I think that Tottenham, if they can get that play that I said working, 2-0.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we can win. I'm going to the pub. I need alcohol for this one, I think. Same as City, and that didn't work out too badly for me. Just before we go, I just promised Jay Ashraf this. Looking ahead, do we keep the same lineup as Leeds for the Leeds game that we had for the Everton game too? Can we break Everton down? I think we can, because Lampard attacks and Everton need the points. Burnley have games in hand, although Everton do as well. But Burnley, Burnley's season ain't going to be defined, and they're not going to go down defined on whether they win or lose to Tottenham. So they could afford to step back. And Everton see themselves as a big club as well. So I don't think their fans would like us to sit back. Lampard isn't that kind of manager. He's got players to attack. But Justin, in terms of that question, same lineup, and can we break them down?
Yeah, I do. And because, I saw them against City and they weren't too bad. But as you said, they didn't sit back. They didn't play dirty football. They tried to, take the game to them. And I think they've got mistakes in their back line in terms of Michael Keane. His decline has been spectacular. So, yeah, I think if we do the same as we did against Leeds, against City, we should win it no problem at all.
Yeah, and Tommy, for you, same lineup as Leeds, and can we break them down? It's got Dele Alli goal written all over it. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but same lineup for you, and can we break them down?
Well, it depends if you go with the same lineup against Borough and lose to Borough. Because if you go with the same lineup to Borough and lose to Borough, then it's all going to change again. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. But I would like to keep the Premier League team together. That's what we beat Leeds. You might have one or two changes against Borough, then you keep the Premier League team together. But we just don't know after Borough things will change dramatically if we lose that game. But Everton are 17th now, which is mind-boggling.
It's terrible, isn't it?
17th. And that's why I mentioned relegation. I wasn't being satirical. When I mentioned relegation, I wasn't being satirical. They're in a relegation battle. They really are. But as yourself and Justin say, they'll come at you in that. For that reason alone, they'll probably come at you. Burnley won't, because they're supposed to be a relegation for the team. So if they get relegated, it's not going to be that surprising. They know how to set up under Dyche. Everton, it's going to be very surprising they're down there, and Lampard only knows how to play one way. So that's the sort of team we want to play. So I'm going to the game as well. First one since Man United.
I am too as well.
Game. Yeah, we got to catch up because we got to win that, man. We got to win that at home. I haven't been to a game since the Man United lost when Nuno got sacked. I haven't been to a Conte game. Oh, wow. I was supposed to go to the North London derby, but it got rescheduled. Still hasn't been rescheduled. So
that'll be like the last day of the season or something.
That'll be amazing, wouldn't it? Imagine to get into the top four. Last day of the season.
Yeah, and Jens has said, Manx versus Scousers always raise their game. We should do them. I'd be... The next two games, I'd be upset anyway, but I'd be particularly upset if we lost the next two games because they're winnable games. Certainly after the Leeds game, regardless of how Leeds played, regardless of how terrible Leeds were, it's got to give you confidence. Seeing those passes and playing those passes. The pass from Kane to Son at the end. It would not surprise me if Son said, "I just ran and didn't look, and then the ball suddenly hit my foot." The telepathy they've kind of got, but. Yeah, but with Doherty certainly and Sackio, I think that will do their confidence no end of good. Simply Ace for the Middlesbrough game, 2-0 Everton, Kulu and Kane. So I hope you're right there. But we pretty much reached the end. A lot that we've talked about. It's very odd, isn't it, that most of it is a positive talk. This season specifically, a lot of the talk has been negative. But Justin, thanks so much for coming on.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem, anytime. And I know you're regularly on All Things Tottenham, so that is in the description, is in the chat, along with yourself, Tommy's channel and Tommy's Twitter handle. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, where can they find All Things Tottenham?
Yeah, so basically it's on all major platforms. So a bit like here, as I said, we're on YouTube, we're on. You can listen to you can listen to it on a podcast. It's all out there. And then, as I said, give us a follow. And if you've got any questions or any sort of debates you want to have, as I said, I'm regularly on Tommy's show. I think he's getting sick to the back teeth of seeing me, but
only when you disagree with his point about
I don't think I'll be. I'm sure I'll get
everyone disagrees with me on Dyer, so I always have to fight my corner. I always have to fight my corner when it comes to Dyer.
But yeah, no, I said I'm on Twitter, so yeah, give us a follow. My hashtags there, or my apps there, so yeah, give us a follow. But yeah, as I said, on most streaming platforms, on YouTube, so yeah, give us a shout. And as I said, I'm more than happy to come on here and Tommy's when I get a chance to do so. So again, thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem. You're very welcome. My pleasure. And Tommy Talks Ball, where can people find that? People who don't know.
Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. I've done a lot of streams with Justin and yourself now. You've been on my streams and stuff like that. So yeah, cheers for having me. And as my handles suggest there, Tommy Talks Ball. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't already, and my channel's there. You can just hit the link and subscribe. Earlier on today, well, literally about half an hour before I came on this stream, that's why I was a little bit late. I done a stream looking at the Leeds game in detail. Quite a few of the people that are already in the chat watched that. So if you haven't watched that, watch that, because it was supposed to be 9 pictures of arrows. It turned out to be 40 because there was about 40 chances for each team. So it went on for a lot longer than it should have. But if you haven't, yeah, just check it out. But before you do any of that, let's get Chris to 200 subscribers. How many are you,
8 now, 192.
I know for a fact people watch and they don't hit the subscribe button and they keep watching the show. So it doesn't make sense. Hit that subscribe. It's completely free. And we need to get Chris to 200. He more than deserves it. It's a great channel. So thanks for having me. And great stream. Great stream.
Problem. Thanks so much for both of you. Welcome anytime. And very odd to be doing a positive stream. Cheers, Aaron. Cheers, everybody in the chat for getting involved and watching as well. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. Then go into the description. Go to All Things Tottenham. Go to Tommy Talks Ball. Do the same thing there. Hit the subscribe and go and watch videos and hit the likes. I won't be here on Monday because I'm going to the Everton game as well. I completely forgot about it. I was trying to get people on the stream for Monday, and then when it's Everton, I'm not around. But yeah, be back here on Friday. A review of the Middlesbrough game, hopefully a positive one, and a more in-depth preview of the Everton one. And we need to start getting on a run now. Burnley blip was terrible. Brilliant result against City. Terrible follow-up against Burnley, but at least we won the next game, so at least we didn't lose 2 in a row again. Now we need to win the next 2 games, cup game, league game, and really try and I'm still not going to go that we're in a top 4 race, because every time I say it they disappoint me and depress me and then prove me wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, hopefully we can get the win in the cup. We don't want a banana skin and a giant killing and then all of that to go against us. So hopefully we can win that comfortably as well. No extra time. Get a bit more confidence, a few more goals for the right people, clean sheet as well, and then roll on for Everton. So until then, until Friday, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs. Come on you Spurs.
Thank you so much for watching, for everybody who participated in the live chat and added comments. Before you go, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Anybody who couldn't watch the live video, you can still catch us on YouTube. Add any comments, suggestions or questions to the comments section on the video. Anybody who's listened to the audio-only podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anybody who wants the audio-only podcast, you get this wherever you get your podcast from. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter, @LTalkTottenham, you'll find all the information there. We'll be back soon. We're live Mondays, 8 p.m, Fridays, 12:30 UK time. Until then, come on, you Spurs!